Welcome to Extra Takes, hosted by Northland Church Senior Pastor, Dr. Joshua Laxton. Join us each week as Pastor Josh reveals the rest of the story behind his sermons. We'll discuss how those who follow Christ can live out a biblical vision for the church in our world today.
Well, hello, Northland family and friends. Welcome to another episode of Extra Takes. I'm your co-host, PJ, along with Matt. And we're here today to talk about the sermon from this past weekend.
We're here.
We're here
to talk about falling in love.
No.
Well, maybe not.
No, we're going faith and love.
Yes.
I even wore a shirt that says faith and love, but...
Is that why you wore that?
I forgot that I had this shirt, but it's faith and love. But, it's taken from 1 Corinthians 13.
Faith, hope, and love.
Yeah.
You are way too intentional with your apparel.
Well, I'm going to be even more intentional when we actually do more apparel.
I laid that out for you. I thought you would take that bait.
I did. So we do want to do more apparel.
Really?
We do, but we're taking it very slow.
Okay.
Yeah, but we do have a shirt that will be coming out in a month or two.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, are you going to tell us what it is?
No, it'd be a Northland shirt, but it's actually going to be like a Northland, like when I say mission church, shirt. Like, I'll just give you that, and it will be not only a Northland shirt, but it will be connected to our Genesis series too. Uh-huh. But it'd be one where again, I think we'll like it. But here's the thing, though, because we're going to get more and more into apparel, like we're going to slowly and incrementally do this. So when we drop a shirt, we're only going to have like 50, maybe 60 shirts. So you'll have to get them now. Because again, we want to get involved into the creation of more apparel around series and quotes and just creative elements that people would wear like during the week and stuff like that. But I
like that.
But we're not going to drop like 300 shirts, like, so
they're gone.
Because like in the past, and this is the thing, like in the past, like our breakthrough shirt, we got so many still left in the bookstore, and so we don't want to do that. We want to be a good steward. So this is where they're going to cost a little bit more, but we're hoping, the hope is that as we design these shirts, in fact, Northland, we're getting ready to have our own, when I say apparel company, like, so the church would own it, but this is where we're trying to incrementally, kind of drop shirts that people would wear again. But they're only going to be a short amount, or they're going to be a small amount, a small number, because we don't want to sit on inventory. So you would have to get your shirt, and if you don't get it, that's fine. You can wait till the next drop. That are coming. You may not even like the drop, but here's what we're looking at: probably 50 to 75 people would. And so I even got a teenager working with us that will help us with, not only the teenage side, but we got some that helping us with adult and teenage. So I'm excited about it.
Awesome.
Because I like obviously being intentional with my apparel.
Awesome.
Like my shoes.
Like Easter. Those
exactly.
Were great.
I know.
Those were great. All right, so let's dig into this week.
Okay.
This is Genesis Making Sense of Mission, and we're in Genesis 24.
Making sense of it, baby.
Love at first sight. No, love at first faith.
Yeah, love at first faith.
Love at first faith? Really?
Yeah.
Never heard that before.
Yeah, I know. It was just a fun way of, you could have said faith and love,
Yeah.
But I like the, even though I didn't mention it in the sermon, but I thought it would be a good title, Love at First Faith.
Yeah.
Because again, you're going to faith in love, not fall in love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what this is all about. We'll look at the main point, and then we'll give five truths that we will unpack here. The main point is the way God's love works is you don't fall in love, you faith in love. And then you continue that by saying marriage isn't about completing me, but finding a mate to do a mission with, or to do mission with. Man, there's a lot there. There's so much conviction that came out of this. Man, you were preaching at us this weekend. Like, you were bringing it.
Was I?
It's hard to not feel convicted.
Mm.
So 5 truths about faithing in love. And this was very much can be seen as directed towards singles, but obviously this was also towards marrieds and kind of whatever stage you're in. So I do hope that whatever stage you're in, you saw the value of each of these. So 5 truths about faithing in love. Number 1, loving God is about moving forward, not going backwards. Number 2, your prayers should align with God's loyal covenantal love for you. Number 3, your fleece prayers need to request God's glory, not your greed. Number 4, your testimony is testifying to God's loyal covenantal love towards you. And finally, number 5, faith is the foundational of loyal covenantal love you faith into. And you introduced to us this word hesed, which was the Hebrew word for this loyal covenant.
I've introduced it before through Ruth. You see it in Ruth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard the word before,
Yeah.
but I didn't remember you talking about it.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, how? Let's start with this question. How similar is that word to agape that we see in the New Testament?
It's going to. I mean, they're going to be partners because you don't have that in the Hebrew language, and so agape is going to be very close to it. Is that there's this unconditional love, but hesed is. I mean, and this is where the Hebrew language is going to be very directed to God's people, where the Greek is borrowing from more of a secular, kind of language, and so they didn't have a word for that. Now they had. Well, I mean, when I say they didn't have a word for covenantal loyalty,
Right.
But you had 4 or 5 different Greek versions of Greek words that talked about some version of love. So agape is the closest thing in terms of hesed, this loyal covenantal love.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fascinating point, though, about the context of what the language, where this word comes from. So let's look at this first question, the one we always start with, one big word for the week.
One big word would be, probably faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, because faith is driving everything.
Yeah. I almost changed it to like 5 words.
5 words?
Yeah. If you had to describe this week in 5 words.
4, 5, yeah. I fell in faith with God. I fell in faith.
I started testing it out. I was like, no, this is too technical. I don't think 5 will work.
Faith. Yeah, I don't know.
I love putting you on the spot.
Faith in love with God.
Faith in love with God.
Yeah, there's 5.
There you go. Don't fall in faith. See, I kept on getting stuck. Faith in love with God. I like it. All right. How about a big takeaway you received through both study and or preaching?
Man, I tell you, no lie. I'm telling you, no lie. I'm working on this message. This is on a Wednesday,
okay,
and I just like, this is like incredible stuff. I say that out loud, and I'm like, God, thank you. I was like, there's so, like, because, when you're diving into, because these are narratives, and, narratives, and this is the thing, when you're reading a narrative, you are reading something that is descriptive, not prescriptive, meaning that it's describing what is happening. Okay, so, but then part of the work of understanding these narratives and actually teaching truth embedded in these narratives is actually seeing if what you are digging up in that narrative actually stands the test of time throughout the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this is part of the reason why a lot of times I'm showing you all of the other ways that you're seeing this play out in the Bible, because if not, then I could do what you call proof texting, meaning I'm just proof texting it. Well, it's just here. Well, no, like and that's where when you look at, okay, you're not supposed to go backwards, you're supposed to go forwards. Then the idea of prayers that align with God's promise, and then looking at like fleece prayers, that was a fun one, because you're like, man, and there's I couldn't find, and this is the thing about that fleece prayer, because I do talk about Gideon. But Gideon's prayer is different than the servant's prayer. Gideon is wanting confidence. This servant wants like a revelation of character, which then that's when you start looking at it is perfectly okay for you to ask God to reveal what is going to actually be needed to advance His mission in the world. And then when you look at testimony, Paul's going to give his testimony. And again, I didn't have time, but this is where I'm labeling out testimony, what it is, what it does, and then showing you right in the text where you faith in love, that really faith, and then but showing you how that operates really in your relationship with Christ. And you relate, and so because this is the idea. It's supposed to be countercultural to our world and to the world's way of loving. Is that if you say that you've fallen out of love, I can tell you what that love was built upon. And again, I'm not arguing for arranged marriages. I'm not saying that you're not going to have something that happens in life where it's not going to lead you down another pathway. But what I'm telling you, but what the Bible teaches is that when you faith in love, again, that's that verb. I'm using faith in a verb sense, even though there is no verb. I think construction of faith, but when you faith in love, you truly do explore the depths of the person that you are in love with, that you are faithing in love with.
Yeah, and it was clear that that excitement that you talked about on Wednesday really came through in your preaching, and you try to communicate that with a lot of energy, maybe more energy than a lot of other weekends.
Well, because these set up, they set up easier to be preaching points.
Okay.
But teaching point, so it was a fun thing where you got to preach it, you got to teach it,
Yeah. Did you get to do it one more time?
And I get to do it one more time.
We're doing it on Monday at about 5 o'clock. So
yeah, this extra takes at 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
so in
you're
2
up in
hours,
2 hours.
I'll be yeah.
Well, let's look at this first point. God's people don't go backwards; they go forwards. Interesting. So many of our congregation. So many are singles, but also many of us are married. So if we're married and we find ourselves misaligned, I would just wonder. What advice you would have for maybe two groups of people. You have this, if they're misaligned, maybe there's a believer and unbeliever in a marriage, and then another one may be cultural Christian. This may be more common actually, cultural Christian and then follower of Jesus. So much of what you were calling us to in this message, whether we're single or whether we're married, is this full on out devotion to the Lord and how it should, be enacted in our life, and really this challenge of do we have a testimony like we see in Genesis 24, and are we enacting in our faith? And I think for so many of us that could be a real challenging thing. So I just would wonder what your thoughts are on if we do find ourselves in this misalignment in our marriage, what advice you would give?
Well, yeah, one, it wasn't a challenge. I wanted to be very honest with the text of going where many people would preach it as a marriage text. I'm not, and they're obviously going to get married.
Yeah.
It's not, this is where you're looking through the lens of a mission. Mm-hmm. what God has wanted and what God has called Abraham and his family into. That's first and foremost. So it's really, and this is why I did 2 points at the for every point, is because there's one, that there's this connection with God and what He's called you, and then there's this connection to your the person that you would date, or the person that you would marry, or the person that you're married to.
Yeah.
So in terms of to answer your question specifically, I'm going to give you the advice, the counsel that Paul is going to give in 1 Corinthians 7, that if you are married, now you have to understand, like in Corinth, there probably were occasions, which is why he wrote it, where one spouse came to faith in Christ, the other spouse remained a pagan, meaning that they, worship many, kind of many gods. Okay, that's also a polytheist. But anyways, I won't go into the etymology of pagan. But nevertheless, one would come to faith, the other one would still be in unbelief. And Paul would counsel the believer, as long as the unbelieving spouse wants to stay in the marriage, stay in the marriage. Okay, so that's what Paul would actually counsel you on. So I won't counsel you against what Paul said. Okay, so that would be one. The second one, even Peter is going to give some counsel to, is that he's even telling wives, if you got an unbelieving husband, that maybe through your faithfulness and your demonstration of faith, that it actually might win your husband. And so again, the idea that both Paul and Peter are going to give believers in a marriage with the spouse being an unbeliever is stay in that marriage and pray that the Lord might work through your faithfulness to actually bring about salvation in their life. So that's the short answer to what I would kind of encourage you.
Yeah, and what if they're in a marriage and one is both believers, but one's maybe more cultural, and now maybe they don't even come to church with you, or they come to church and you're dragging everything that you were kind of advising against. If there was a single, I would just wonder what you would advise a couple if one is just on fire for the Lord and I would say walking with the Lord, and the other one is maybe just going through the motions.
Yeah, I mean, so don't let the wet water actually put the fire out in your soul, is what I would, and that's something that you would have to really protect against, because and this is, and this is really the principle, here is, Abraham didn't want Isaac to go back to even be tempted to be weighted down to stay there. So that's where if you're in, if you're in a marriage where one's the wet water, and water is wet, but if you're in a marriage where one's the water and you're the fire, just make sure that the water doesn't put out the fire. And so you'll just have to, be more cognizant, protective, of that. Don't let their criticism, if they might criticize, don't let them, bring you down. And so that would even bring about another element of praying prayers that align with God's will. So we know that God desires all men to be saved, all people to be saved, and come to the knowledge of Jesus. We see that in Timothy, but also He wants you to remain on fire. So maybe there, as you wait for God to miraculously move in your spouse's life, your prayer is, I need to be reminded of who I am and whose I am, because it's really tough right now. And so that's where point one and point two could actually, work in tandem with you where you might be in your marriage.
Yeah.
And then here's one of the things, because here's what I would definitely say for many, this is not all, but many, you basically married a nominal believer, and here's the thing, and this isn't for everybody, this is for many though, you made concessions. you made concessions based upon what we talked about at the very end of that message, where you looked at the laughs, the looks, the lifestyle, and you made concessions. What you actually need to do also is that you need to repent before the God of heaven and say that you actually made a mistake, and that you actually sinned because you made concessions, knowing in your heart that this really, I'm making this work, not that God's leading me to this. And so, and I think there's a lot of people that do this. I see it all the time, is that, well, you know, and I'm not trying to get into playing denominations against one another, but, well, you know, he's Catholic, and I'm trying to, well, hang on. If y'all haven't gotten together to figure out what church you're going to be at, what church you're going to serve, then you need to stop right now, and figure that out. Because if you're making concessions now, that's only going to get worse now when it comes to spiritual concessions that you are making. And here's what I just know. I have so many examples in my mind of people that made concessions going, well, yeah, I know that he's not where he needs to be, but I mean, this is where I'm praying. I really love him. I mean, he's a really good guy. He's got a big heart. Listen, he can have the biggest heart in the world for whatever it is, but if he doesn't have the biggest heart in the world for God and his church and his mission, then you might need to pause, okay? So that's where I would say that you're dealing with, again, this isn't 100%. This isn't 10 out of 10 couples that you're dealing, but I could definitely say there is a good percentage of couples out there that the reason why you're dealing with the nominalism of your spouse today is because you made concessions early on, and you're dealing with the concessions that you made, and you actually just might need to repent of that.
That's a challenging message.
And this is like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Listen, there's a difference between making a mistake, and there's a difference between making a concession. Making a concession of a conviction that we know that the Bible teaches. When you make that concession of the conviction that you know that the Bible teaches, we call that sin, because you're like, I don't care. Like, I'm hoping this will change. Now, hang on, whoa. Like, no, that what we even see in this text, like Abraham, like, don't take my son. He ain't going, like, he ain't to go backwards. He's to go forwards. So when you make a concession, guess what you do? You go backwards. You're welcome.
I don't know what else I can add. So let's look at that second point. Because
I can't wait to get to Jacob.
Okay.
Because now, I mean, so, and this is the idea even of Jacob. I mean, that sucker struggles to understand his identity in God and in the promise. And so, but Jacob's going to go back. He's actually, so Laban is Rebekah's brother. When Jacob goes back, Laban has two daughters, Rachel and Leah. And Jacob, that sucker, because he goes backwards, he's going to get stuck. And it's going to be extremely hard for him to leave. And then you know what happens? When he leaves, guess what old Rachel brings with her? Some idols. Anyways, but nevertheless.
So, yeah, there's a lot there. I think when you said that and you showed us the picture of the physical movement, and he didn't want Isaac to go, I understood a little bit more, because you read the story of Jacob and it's so hard. 7 years, another 7 years, and it's just so hard to wrap your head around, like, why would he just agree to another 7 years? And I'm wondering if part of it was not just obviously who she was, but also the allure of the land and the people and staying there. He didn't want to leave. Like
well, because it was more
like he didn't want to, like,
he loved the woman more than the promise.
Yeah.
But really wasn't love, it was lust.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is where sin will keep you longer than you want to stay, and it will cost you more than you want to pay. Like, and that's the thing. I mean, he went back, and so again, I mean, that's Jacob. When we get to Jacob now, we'll actually be at least in part of Jacob's life this coming week.
Okay.
As we look at Jacob and Esau, and there's some good stuff there too. I mean, there's some good stuff even with Abraham dying.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Okay.
I'll hold it for
All right.
next week.
So number 2, your prayer should align with God's loyal covenantal love for you. And under that, you said pray for a covenantal mate who will join you on God's covenantal mission. And that, connects right back to the main point about marriage isn't about, you complete me, but finding a mate to do mission with, which just, you've done this before, but just elevates marriage in just such a different way than I think many of us.
Then what the culture tells us, and then even what the subculture of the church has told us.
Yeah, and that's where, I think that's where this message can just be so challenging, because I can't imagine many listening to that message and being like, yeah, I did all that right. Right? Like we're all, I
mean, and again, I'm not saying, listen, obviously I'm far from perfect, but I mean, Joni will tell you, when we went on our pseudo first date, I literally interviewed her. When I say pseudo first, you know what I mean by pseudo first date is there were other people that were supposed to be with us, but it ended up just being us. Mm-hmm. So
and
that's why I say pseudo.
And I was laughing because I've heard this before. Yeah.
So
you interviewed her.
I interviewed her.
Slow down, man.
What do you see yourself doing? Because here's the thing, I ain't wasting my time.
Slow down.
What do you see yourself doing? What's your passion in life? What has God called you to do? Because it was more about because this is the thing. There are a lot of women out there that could fit the attraction element, but there's not a lot of there may be a lot of women too that would fit the missional element. But let's lead with the missional element and go, okay, and then you can say, okay, it hits the missional element, am I attracted? This is where mission, and this goes back even to the third part of character. Character and mission is more important than attraction. Yeah. But I'm not saying that there's no element of attraction. Yes, you ought to be attracted to her or him. But I do believe that that character and mission actually allows you to delve deeper into the attraction.
Yeah.
But if it's only attraction fades, and we talked about that. So this is where I'm saying character. Yeah. Hopefully, this is the idea too of character and mission. Character develops even deeper if they're growing in Christ.
Yeah, so I like under the second point, you asked the question, are your prayers so intentional and in alignment with the promises God gave us? And this opportunity for us to pray back the promises of God and remind God of who He is and what He has said. And you laid out for us what prayer is not, and then what prayer is. And yeah, I mean, I heard from a prayer warrior this weekend, just that point in particular was really impactful for them. They had not considered prayer in that way. Because this is another thing. I mean, what the prayer is not, you're again elevating. That's what I think so much of this. Maybe the word for this week could be elevating, because you are elevating for us these concepts that I don't think we take seriously enough. Marriage is one of them. Prayer is another.
Well, because again, this is why we're making sense of mission. That's the whole idea, right? We're making sense of mission. But by making sense of mission, and when you see all of these other elements, see if mission is the umbrella, then everything under mission is supposed to be undergirding and supporting mission. So therefore, prayer is supporting mission. But then that's why it's so important to understand what is God's mission. God's mission is to redeem, to deliver, save one people from every tribe, every nation, every tongue, every people group. So therefore, prayer is undergirding the mission that God is on. And so now what we see from the servant is that prayer is asking God to do what basically He said He was going to do. Now, there was one there's one passage that I didn't get to, and let me read that. It's actually in 1 John chapter 5. And again, I just didn't want to spend time, going to it. But hey, I knew I had the extra takes. So here's what John, who was a disciple of Jesus, he says, "I write these things."
1 John chapter 5, what verse?
Oh, verse 13 and 14.
Okay.
So I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, so that you may know that you have eternal life. Now, this is the confidence we have in approaching God, that if we ask, you can substitute the word pray. So if we pray anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have what we ask of him. But this is why it's so important. What John is saying is that you just can't go and ask anything from God. You got to ask what his will is. Well, what is his will? His will is attached to his mission. And that's why, I noted the Lord's Prayer. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's God's will. God's will is to bring heaven to earth. And so therefore you're asking. This is what prayer is. Prayer is undergirding, supporting God's mission in the world. It's his will. That's what give us our daily bread. So these are the things that undergird. This is what I need to accomplish your mission. Not just as what I need. This is actually what I need for you to give me the sustenance, just the physical power, because that's what daily bread does. Those carbs and those nutrients actually give your body what it needs to actually be active in the world. Now, why are you active in the world? To support his mission. So everything is in accordance to God's mission in the world. That's why, if you just say that God's mission is evangelism, then I can promise you will be praying prayers that aren't in accordance to God's will, if you just thought it was that.
Yeah, I think that's so very important. Again, you're connecting it back to this idea of making sense of mission and why we really have to understand God's mission. All right, let's look at number 3. Your fleece prayers need to request God's glory, character, not your greed. So this idea of character is the greatest magnet and movement in the covenant of marriage and God's mission. This is where he gave us some math.
Yeah, water and 10 thirsty camels.
Little thought experiment.
Yeah.
That was good.
You like that?
I've never seen that before. I did like that. I was very impressed.
Well, because it's there for a reason. It's not just, and that's the thing, it's not just for entertainment. He says 10 camels on purpose.
It's easy to just, who cares if it's 10 or 20? I don't know what the culture is. You know what I mean? It's so easy just to go past it. And it is easy to read. Yeah, of course I can see the character if she's going to offer the water. But it's so much more. I think you drew out this idea of hospitality versus generosity. And hospitality is giving, the servant water, but generosity is saying, not just the physical labor and spending the time, but I'm going to totally reorient what I was going to do today for this purpose, which revealed her character, which revealed her actually being willing to totally orient her entire life, right? But there is this step, and I like what you said about the servants. I mean, I think that would be a fun book or a fun study to pull out all of the nondescript characters of the Bible, the unsung heroes, and the servant could be one of them, right? When you just try to put yourself in the servant's place and the job that they had and what that would have felt like, and you really try to bring out the excitement that he could have been experiencing, right? As he's retelling this story of I didn't even get to finish.
Yeah, I mean, just what's going through his mind is he watches Rebecca for 4 hours go back and forth.
Was he not going to help her?
Obviously, he's sitting there watching her.
He's just sitting there.
He's like, drink, camel. I don't know what else he's doing. I mean, it
doesn't say.
Well, no. She quickly emptied her jar. She ran back to the well. She drew more water. She drew enough for all his camels. And then I think even in the passages, the passage later, he so please give me a drink, and then so I drank as she watered the camels also. So he's sitting there having him a break while she doing all the work.
Maybe he's not the unsung hero.
But you have to understand that was cultural. That was cultural too, because it's not like Laban is going out there and getting the water. She's getting the water to take back to the house.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that was such a great example for us to that there's way more in these passages than we recognize, and there's so much more for us to squeeze out.
Yeah.
And I love how you said, 10 camels, remember that number.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way for us to read and study as we are reading, to be curious. Why did the writer put 10? I wonder if there's more to that. Right? And if you're asking yourself that question as you're reading, I could see you then saying, 10. How long would that have taken?
Well, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal if it wouldn't have come back and go, here's what happened with the camels.
Right, because it circled back to it. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I just love how you drew that out, this idea of hospitality versus generosity. Now this fourth one, testimony. Maybe you got the most excited about testimony. Your testimony is testifying to God's loyal covenantal love towards you. And if they don't have a testimony to tell, you don't have a ring to give them. Man, you were bold on that one. That's mean.
No, it's
Why
not.
you got to say that?
No, why does that mean?
It's mean to just tell someone bluntly.
Don't give them a ring?
I mean, what if they're coming along, maybe they really love each other?
I would say that's not the biblical process, but that's part of the truth is, listen, if they don't have a testimony, and that's one of the reasons, too, why I went over what a testimony is. Well, they go to church with me. That's not a testimony. Well, they were baptized when they were 8. That ain't a testimony. That could be a part of kind of their story, but that is just one act. That isn't this ongoing nature of God's movement and involvement in their life. Yeah. So that's why, and then, it's just I'm telling you, I've never gotten over my testimony because it never ended.
Well, two things there. One, I think very helpful that you laid out what a testimony is and what it does, because for one, that was a challenging question when you said, do you have a testimony like Rebecca's? And it's like, ooh. But the other piece is this idea of, so often our testimony, that was in the past. That was at this radical conversion, right? So those that have a radical conversion have the best testimony. But you drew out that, hey, this is an ongoing thing. And even you giving us an example that what you were doing week in and week out is testifying to God's work in your life in an ongoing way. So it elevated this idea of testimony for us.
Yeah, I mean, if you just read Galatians and you read the first chapter, Paul's like, I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel, which is really no gospel at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ. And then he goes on to say, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that the gospel I preach is not of human origin. I did not receive it from any man, nor was I taught it. Rather, I received it by revelation from Jesus. For you have heard of my previous way of life in Judaism, how intensely I persecuted the church. And then he talks about in verse 18, then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem. Then in verse 21, then I went to Syria and Cilicia. I was personally unknown to the churches of Judea that are in Christ. They only heard the report that the man who formerly persecuted us is now preaching the faith he once tried to destroy. Then after 14 years I went up again to Jerusalem, this time with Barnabas. I took Titus along. I went in response. Then, he talks about verse 11. When Cephas, Peter, came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned for before certain men. So what he's saying, if you listen to what he's saying, I've not gotten over Jesus. I've not gotten over Jesus.
And this is how it's affected me along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even today, I'm still following Jesus. And this is what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, for through the law, I died to the law so that I might live for God. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I mean, like this is Paul. After he just shared his testimony, he's like, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing now. And then I think he will even go. Anyways, but like talk about what's coming down the road. But anyways, but he's like, what I'm doing now. This is what God's doing in my life now.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway. We all have a testimony, and it hasn't just ended. So let's look at number 5. Faith is the foundation of loyal covenantal love. You faith into love. So marriage should be founded on faith, so you will fall deeper in love. And so often we mix those, right? But you are saying that we will fall deeper in love, but that is when we have this foundation of faith. This is where you ended by giving us these pictures: relationship with God, the ocean or the puddle, and then relationship in marriage with the ocean and the puddle. What are your thoughts on each of those diagrams?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to give an image that tried to at least illustrate this element of diving and exploring the depths of love that is actually founded upon faith versus, and this is how you can know what your love is really made of. Now, and this is where I'm like, can the elements of results and feelings and what I get, can it deceive you? Yeah. I mean, we see that even with the parable of the sower, is that you can have the deceitfulness of riches and wealth that blind you and actually take your focus off the Lord. And then, but here's the thing. If those things start, like not only can it take your focus off the Lord because you're looking at riches and wealth, but they can actually suck the life and the love out of the love that you have for the Lord. I mean, so this is part of where, like, that's why you got to be very, very careful as what is defining the relationship. That's why the prosperity gospel is from the pit of hell, because if you say that the Lord will give you health and wealth if you put your faith into Him, what if you don't get health and wealth? Then people would say, well, you actually don't have faith, or you don't love, you're not loving Him, or there's something wrong with you. I mean, my gosh. Well, then undoubtedly there's something wrong with Jesus. The Son of God. Like, so that's why I say it's a pit, prosperity gospel is from the pit of hell, because it can be very deceptive if you are driven off of these elements of life. And then when you apply it to marriage, I mean, here's the thing. There are a lot of marriages today. I'll just be honest. There are a lot of marriages today that are built upon basically life, looks, lifestyle. I would even say lifestyle, and what happens in your life could be kids and all of that. And, and you're just diving deep because you have a plethora of laughs, looks, and lifestyle. But you have to ask yourself, is that really the meaning of marriage? Is that really the meaning of marriage? Because this is part of how you can understand whether or not something is the meaning, is, are they vulnerable? Are they vulnerable? What you are building your marriage on, is it, or are they vulnerable? Kids, are they vulnerable? Absolutely, they are vulnerable. And not to say that I would wish like you would outlive your child, but we know this. Parents outlive their children all the time. So if you're building your marriage on the fact that your kid's there, here's the other thing that I know is that at some point they're gonna leave the nest, and empty nest syndrome is a definite element of even divorces later on in life. And so this is where, like, whatever your marriage is built on, ask yourself, is that thing, or are those things vulnerable? Can they be here today and gone tomorrow? And if they can, if the answer is yes, the meaning of marriage is actually wrong.
Yeah, and I would say we have to, as believers in Jesus who are married, we have to be very careful to not compare ourselves to other couples, especially when we are, when on the surface, they may have a puddle marriage, but everything is just growing and, seemingly great, and vacations and you name it, right?
Yeah.
However you want to define success, the whole old adage, keeping up with the Joneses, as Christians couples, we have to be very careful not to fall prey to that comparison.
Well, and here's another element, okay? So, in some sense, let's just take God out of the equation just for a second, okay? So let's say two people get married, and obviously they're getting married because they have something or some things in common.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what we do know in life as time goes on. You become a different person. I'm not the same person at 43 as I was at 23. I've become a different person.
Yeah.
And what we hear a lot of times in marriage is, well, he's not the same guy that I married. Oh, she's not the same girl I married. And it could be for a host of reasons. And here's the idea is that, yes, if you are saying that marriage is built upon commonalities that we have, that might not be true 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years down the road. Those commonalities could have changed, and you could wake up going, I'm a different person, and we have grown apart.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is where Jesus becomes the anchor not only of our soul, but he becomes the anchor of our marriage, because if we are exploring the depths of Jesus, not only individually, but if both of the spouses are exploring the depths of Jesus and who he is, what he's done, what he's doing, what he's going to do, then that's that one commonality that is actually shaping and forming us into a new creature, into a new creation that is actually driving us together, not apart. That's the meaning of marriage.
And as long as your commitment both stays to Jesus, that's not vulnerable. I think it was a Keller quote that said, I was married to 7 different people, and it happened to be the same woman.
Yeah, well, and he talks about that in actually the meaning of marriage. Yeah. So his book, and this is what any couple that I am doing premarital counseling with, or that I'm going to be marrying or officiating their marriage, they have to read that book.
It's a really good one to walk through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing, and that really gets at the point of how do you have a marriage that sustains for the long term if we're going to be changing people.
Yeah.
And the change, that's common interest and everything. So yeah, I think that's a great point, and we have to be careful to not be influenced and swayed by other couples if they don't have the same ultimate values that we do and the ultimate faith.
So you will not fall, but you will faith into love, and as a result, you will actually fall deeper in love. You'll fall deeper in love with God. You will fall deeper in love with your spouse as you move forwards, not backwards. As you pray prayers that align with his will, his purpose in this world, and as you testify. And that's the thing, that testimony is so important, because you're constantly preaching how the gospel has not only saved you, but is saving you and will one day save you, in the sense of shaping and forming and molding you. You'll not lose sight of, and so again, you'll just fall deeper in love. So
Amen.
So faith into love. Don't think that you'll just fall into love, because you can fall out of love just as quick as you fell into love.
Amen.
Well, so Northland family and friends, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Extra Takes. Until next week, blessings.
Thanks for listening to Extra Takes. Be sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you won't miss a single episode.